on lots of these shows and events. So she's a veteran here. And Puja came in for a few of those discussions, and it was really nice from her experiences, what she put across. Really makes sense when you come from that kind of an experience. It was really nice, Puja. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
But of course, I'm not going to let you guys come in. You know the drill now. The drill is to first let's talk about the thing, and after that it's going to be your show. So give me some time to put it across. So that's what it's all about. Of course, trust and connection in mediation. But Puja, like always, I put people on the spot. Please tell us about the conference.
Well, I'm not in a spot, and I've been following you over the years, Vikram, and this is the first time you invited, and I was super excited. This particular World Mediation Conference, which is started from the 18th of May, and the finale is on 30th of June, which is mandatory for all of us to attend, is about the different views across the borders and going beyond and discussing like how far we have walked on the path, and is there something which we are missing out on, or is there something which we should be doing? And in a way, it's an amalgamation of various thoughts across the borders, and to come out with something more constructive in the field of mediation is what I understand. And you're doing a wonderful job indeed.
Well, thank you very much. That's a very nice introduction. I mean, this is
sometimes... I was just thinking that too, Vikram. I think Puja should be our MC.
Exactly. This little clip is what I need to put out there. Sometimes I also don't know all these nice things about the work that I do. So thank you, Puja. Really nice to hear that. So here onwards, of course, look, Andrea gave the topic. Andrea, please, you.
And before we start, hello, Andrea. I never got a chance to say hello to you.
Oh, it's lovely to meet you. It's always lovely to meet someone. Yeah, lovely to meet you. Vikram, I wasn't sure whether you wanted a few slides or not, so I gave a few slides. But if you wanted just to have a conversation.
No, it's perfect, perfect. When Andrea says the slides have to come with it.
I'll share a few slides and hold on there.
And the background, Puja, is that I have to force Andrea to participate in events, and she comes up with such interesting perspectives, and she starts off by saying, no, what am I going to talk about? And it'll be the most interesting part of that entire event.
You know, Puja, it's not that I just never trust that what I'm going to share is good enough for anybody. So that's really, sorry now, I'm just trying to see where my slideshow has gone.
It'll come. I think it's going to take its time.
There it is, yeah.
This particular slide, trust and connection in mediation, Andrea, reminds us of a childhood game which we all used to play, and it's called Pittu in Hindi.
And so explain it to me, Puja.
There is a ball, there's a group of people, and this thing is there, and one of them throws the ball at this whole tower which is built. And then, the person who's holding on to the ball has to hit on the back of the person. If that person gets hit with the ball, you have to evade it to somehow not get hit, and then you have to build up the tower. So if the team does that, so you win.
So what is the game called again? Because I'm fascinated.
I don't know the English name, but I know the Hindi name. It is Pittu.
Basically, look, this is what Puja said it very nicely. It's actually a very action-oriented game. The two teams, and one is the one that has to break the tower. And the moment they break it, they run. The other team has to hit the other guys. Whoever they hit then goes out. It's a action-oriented game. It's like fast-moving.
And as children, at least my generation, there will not be a person who's not played this one.
Yeah. Don't you love the old games, and it's interesting that, one of the things I'll talk about in Trust and Connection is about understanding, what people bring from their different cultures, when we're in mediation with things. So, and why it's so important to ask questions, so that you understand that. So that's why I asked the question. I was really interested, but I really love to have the stories from different parts of the world, when you're talking about different things and you can use a different explanation to it. So thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Sure.
So let's get going. Oh, hold on. So Vikram, as you know, I love quotes, but I love this one. trust each other again and again. And when the trust level gets high enough, people transcend apparent limits, discovering new and awesome abilities of which they were previously unaware. Yep. And I think that's what we do as mediators when we go into the room, when we're building up trust, not just between the parties, but also in us as the mediator, because that's a big ask. Like when somebody comes into a space that we provide, they generally know very little about us. And they don't know anything about our values, or they don't know anything about our background. And we're asking them to step into a space where they are going to share some of the most vulnerable moments and maybe share things that they're not very proud of, or that they feel that they don't want other people to know, but yet they're trusting us to share that information so we can help them move forward. So I think really for mediation to happen, and whether it's in commercial mediation or whether it's in family mediation, we have to have an element of trust. And the first element of trust is between the mediator and the people that come to us for our help, and also between them. So how do we build that trust, and how do we do that? And I think if we are successful in building that trust, we actually allow them a space where they can actually reach, higher levels of conflict resolution that maybe they never thought was possible. And so allowing them the space where they can begin to trust each other again, because when most people come into the mediation room and there's been conflict, trust has been broken down in some way. So at the start of the conversation, we're dealing with broken trust. So it's like the game, Puja, that you said, somebody has knocked down all those stones. And as mediators, we're chasing the team around trying to get the stones back up. And we have to do it in such a way that actually they're going to go, we'll leave those stones in place now. We're not going to knock them down again, and we're going to work together. So I think really that's what we do as mediators when we build trust in the room, or try and help participants build trust. So I suppose, how do we build trust? And this is very I think, first of all, we have to give trust to the people that come to us. So I don't know your experience around people when they ring you initially for mediation, and sometimes you listen to somebody who's very emotional or somebody who's very angry, and the other person is so wrong. I need to bring them to mediation so they can see how wrong they are, And so we have to trust that when they come into the room, they're going to be able to have that conversation. Now, unless there's any apparent reason why they weren't, as mediators, we generally trust that if they've come to us for mediation, that actually they are going to commit in some way to the process. So I think starting off, that's where it first starts, that we trust people who come to us for mediation, that actually they really want this process to work. And I think then open and transparent communication. So letting people know who I am, without any kind of, frills or bells or whistles. This is who I am. This is what I do. This is my background. And this is what I do best, or this is, actually there's part of that I wouldn't be great on, but I know somebody else who might be better for you. So I think being open and transparent and really letting them see that there's nothing hidden. What they see is what they get. And then that builds up that element of trust. And I suppose also being very transparent about what your limitations are as a mediator, to say, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do at the end of this. I'm not going to make decisions for you. This is, your process, and you're going to make decisions. You're going to work together. So actually being very clear about what our limitations are as mediators too. And then to demonstrate competence. So let them see what you're capable of, let them see that. And that might be something like sending them off initially, send them a bio about what you've done in the past, let them see your competence level. It might be, tell them about experience that you've had and things like that. Or it might just be within the room, within that first individual session, to allow them to see some of your skills and your abilities, so they can kind of go, okay, all right, I think this person can help me. I can trust that this person has the skills that might move us forward. and then be reliable. So, obviously, if you make an appointment for a mediation, that goes without saying that you carry through, or if you're going to forward information, you forward that information, and, so that they can trust that they have this reliability from you as the mediator. I suppose one of the most important things then is to be patient with people, because, for example, I had a mediation and the two individuals were at different stages, in that one just wants to get the process done, wants to get something down in writing. The other person was still at an emotional level that they weren't ready for an agreement. So I had to be patient as a mediator and trust that they would get to where they needed to get, and, to allow them the space and be patient with them and give them support. But also, on the other hand, talking to the other person who needed it done more quickly. And if you've built up that element of trust with them, you can say to them, look, I'm trying to support you. You're at a different pace than the other person, and we're going to try and balance this so you can both get to where you need to go at a reasonable time. So again, it's about having built up that trust, but then being patient with the people in the room and being yourself, being me, being, authentic. Vikram will tell you, I'm very much, what you see is what you get. And I'm like that in mediation as well. So there's nothing hidden. And I think people connect to that. People know when somebody is true. And I think if you're authentic and genuine, your heart is open. And when your heart is open, you connect to a people. And I often find if you're in a mediation room and you feel that sense of connection, and it doesn't happen all the time, but it does happen sometimes. And I've actually felt the hairs on my arms stand because I know I've connected. And it's like somebody putting a plug in the socket and there's a surge of electricity, and you feel the hairs and you go, okay, we're connected. And it's like as if something is sending you a sign that the energy is right. I don't know whether that happens for anybody else. Maybe that sometimes happens with me. And I suppose be reliable and consistent. We've kind of said that already. Respect the boundaries. So when we say to somebody like, well, what is the scope of this conversation? And if they say to us, this is the scope of our conversation and I don't want to go outside that. Sometimes we have to respect that and we have to trust it, actually, most of the time, unless they give us permission. So I think if we're going outside that, we have to be respectful. We have to honor the trust they've given us. And we have to ask them privately, are we okay to go outside the scope? And if they've built up enough trust with you and they trust you, you might be able to have the conversation that actually, I think it would really help if this is brought into the room. I think this will be an opportunity. What do you think? How do you think that you might be able to put that across? And I think it's about trusting them to make the right decision, but also respecting their boundaries around their scope and not bringing it into joint sessions if it's something they've asked you not to. I mean, that's confidentiality without boundaries, but just to always kind of to ask that permission. And I suppose at the end of the day to act with integrity. But I think as mediators, I'd say 99.9% of us act with integrity, and it goes without saying. Now, this is my little neuroscience bit. Vikram and Puja, I love a little bit of neuroscience and understanding what's going on in the brain when we connect, because there's definitely some sort of chemical reaction. And I suppose most people will have heard of the happy hormone or the cuddle hormone or the tendon befriend hormone, that is oxytocin. And there was a research piece done, I think it was 2017, by Paul Sack is his name. And he wrote it up actually for the Harvard Business Post. And it was looking at workplace. But they did an experiment with a number of people. And what they did was there was somebody who gave trust and then somebody who received trust. And it was done across line, and there was money sent from one person to another person online. So when it reached the person on the other side, it was tripled in value, I think. And the idea was that they had to trust that the other person would send back or share that amount with them. So they didn't know that when this experiment was being done, they didn't know it was to do with measuring oxytocin levels. They wouldn't have been able to control it anyway, but they didn't know that this was the experiment. But they took blood tests. And what was interesting is when we trust somebody, our oxytocin levels go up. Excuse me. And when we receive trust, our oxytocin level goes up. And when that goes up, we are drawn to people. We are open to connection. All right. So how do we use that information then when we are in the mediation room? Now, look, there's loads of research on it. It'd take a day to kind of just do a presentation of that alone, but people can go and find it themselves. But how do we use that information when we're in the mediation room? It's like, so if I was doing a family mediation and there was children involved, I would ask maybe the parents to show me pictures of their children, and I'd get them to talk about their children. And straight away, I've never seen a parent not light up, but they light up when they talk about their children. They talk about what they mean. They start laughing together. They start connecting together. They start, that hormone is being released because it's something that they care about deeply. And that means then once that's released and you're releasing that oxytocin, it opens up an area or a space for trust to be built. And there's a little window there where we can form connections with the parents. And I mean, that's not like you could do that if that was in a commercial mediation, you might form that connection by talking about somebody's, maybe talking about a childhood game if something came up in conversation, or talking about, if you were in their city and saying, God, what a beautiful city this is. Tell me a bit about this city. And if they're passionate about their city, you have an opportunity there to release some of the happy hormones. Now, if they don't like their city, we might be in trouble. But what I'm saying is it's finding a topic, it's finding something that allows space for that hormone to be released, and therefore allows space for us to connect. So look, I don't have the exact science, how much of it that needs to be released or anything like that, but I think we need to understand that there is more going on, and how we are in the mediation room as mediators allows space for connection. So the report that came out of that study, and it was based on the workplace, but I think it could very much apply to the mediation room. So recognize excellence. So when parties or participants or people are doing really well in mediation, to actually acknowledge it and say, God, you have worked really hard today. That has, been great. That wasn't easy to get to where you did, but you did it, and to recognize when somebody works hard. Give people direction and then allow them autonomy. And I think that's what we do in mediation. Like might be given direction, but we're given a space, and then we allow them the autonomy. We give them a process, and then we allow them the autonomy to make up their own minds and to, form their own agreements. We help them work together to achieve their goals. So we'd often say, so what is your aim in this mediation? What would you like to get out of this mediation? And then you might mutualize and say, okay, so what you're both saying to me, you would really like this. And so how can we work together to get to that? So it's giving them a common goal. But one of the things in the research says it has to be achievable, because if it's not achievable, there's a sense then of failure. So it's to make sure that that goal is not too big. So to take it in steps in mediation, reaching those goals piece by piece, as opposed to reaching the overall goal straight away. And then intentionally build relationships. But that's what we do every day. We do that when we go into the shop and we thank somebody for serving us, or we, say, isn't it a lovely day? Or we meet somebody on the street and, maybe they might have a child in their hand and we say, my God, it's a beautiful baby. Or, so that's what we're doing. We're building relationships, even if they're only for fleeting moments. They're a relationship in that second or in that time. And then again, sharing information to reduce uncertainty. We do that. We talked about that at the start, so I won't kind of go into that. But facilitate personal growth. And I think really when anybody goes into mediation, they can't come out of it without being changed in some way. I think it's transformative. It might necessarily be transformative in the moment. It might necessarily be transformative that day. It could be something in a couple of years' time even, and they go, oh, actually, do you know what? I remember something we had in that conversation, and I remember something, and you know, so that helps that growth, that personal growth and understanding. And I think when we're given a space to be open and vulnerable and actually to have an honest dialogue with somebody, and we see that, you know, maybe it has helped move us forward, but we have changed, because we will never again, well, maybe we will, but we would be more inclined to have those open, honest conversations when we see how fruitful they can be. So I do think it allows for personal growth. So even though this is talking about a working environment, I think we can easily adapt it to a mediation. And again, show vulnerability. I mean, mediation is all about vulnerability. It's about the, you know, the people that come to us being vulnerable. And I think also the mediator being vulnerable. We have to be true to who we are. We have to acknowledge our own shortcomings and failings, and, you know, say if something is not working for us, you know, like, there's something not working right in this room. Is it me or is it thing? And not to be afraid to show the human side of you when you're in mediation. And trust is the truth. I love this quote by Hemingway, and I actually I love some of Hemingway's books. I went to see his house in Florida many moons ago, and he fascinates me. And I don't know why, because there's a lot of his characteristics wouldn't be in line in my thinking, but actually some of his writing fascinates me. So the best way to find out if you can trust somebody is to trust them. And I think that is so true. You know, we say, I can't trust that person. And so you're not trusting them. You're not trusting them to trust you. So I think we have to give trust first. And if that trust is broken, we'll then make our decision. Do we try rebuild it? Do we approach it? Or, you know, do we walk away? Is it broken beyond repair? So building trust. Vikram, am I going too long? I don't know whether you have a time scale for me. Am I okay?
No, there's enough time. Only thing is Puja wanting to say something, but she's wanting to come in between, but she's okay. Now she's holding on. There's lots she has to say. There's lots.
I'm just assimilating the thoughts in my mind. Don't worry.
Puja, share with me so far what you think. Share with me so far what you think.
You finish it and then I will. It's lovely seeing all the slides.
Yeah.
So let's continue.
So I think one of the things I've learned, because I've been very busy with work over the last year, working with kind of organizations and things like that. And I think one of the things I've learned is that connection is key, but with connection, to get to connection, you have to get trust first. And we have to find different ways to connect. And for different people, those connections will mean they'll trust us or they don't trust us. So depending on your environment, it might be that we trust through cultural understanding. So it's understanding what is trust in different cultures, you know, so what symbolizes trust, because it's different. Trust is a word, you know, and I think it could have been Ken that said a word is behind bars until you give it meaning. And that's probably not an exact quote, but basically I have this image in my head of prison bars and the word behind it. And actually, until we give our own meaning to it, it doesn't mean anything. You know, it only means what the receiver says to them, you know. So I think it's connecting through that cultural understanding. So understanding what trust means for different cultures, connecting through the environment. So, for example, I was doing a mediation, and it was quite a large family, a couple of family groups, and the way to do it, actually, the environment had to be right for them to feel like they were in a safe environment and they could trust each other. So it was actually done within a home, and it was done within like a sitting room environment, or, you know, so it wasn't done within an office or in a room somewhere. It was done very much in a home environment. And that was to allow them the space, first of all, to feel safe, to feel that they could trust that, you know, the mediator taking into consideration what would be most comfortable for them, but also allow them the space to connect with each other, because it was somewhere that they felt safe, and therefore then they could trust, because when we feel connected, it's easier to trust. Connecting through dialogue. So, you know, opening up the conversations, talking about, for most mediations, they will have seen as conversations and dialogue develop in mediations, trust builds up. you know, people start trusting each other. And that's, of course, if it's going the right way, but generally trust builds up. And connection builds then through understanding. So when we start to understand somebody's story, we can connect easier to it. We mightn't agree with it, or we might have a different perspective to it. But actually, when we understand it, we can connect to the story. Because when we understand it, we can go, okay, that's their narrative. That's what's real for them. I can understand that story. So in that way, I'm connected to that person. And we've talked about trust already, connecting through shared values. And, you know, I know myself and Vikram are great friends now, and we would have very similar values, I would imagine, in life, Vikram. And therefore, it's easy for us to connect, you know, because we're very much on the same wavelength. And then connecting through difference. So when you don't understand something, not to be afraid to ask questions. A quick story, I have a son who is living and working in Cambodia at the moment, and he was invited to a local wedding. And so he arrived at the wedding, and he's a 6-foot white man walking into a local wedding. And he was with friends, and he sat down, and the children from the village came in at a certain time to collect kind of the bottles and the cans, because they can collect money for it. And when they came in and they saw this 6-foot white man sitting in the room, they were fascinated by him. And actually what they did was they pulled up a row of chairs in a circle around him. And they were 5 and 6-year-olds, and they asked him questions. And actually they connected because they were different, because they weren't afraid to ask questions. They weren't afraid to say, okay, you're different to me. I want to understand why you're different to me, you know. And so they sat around, and it was actually a lovely moment for me, you know, for him. And of course he connected with them, and he sent the family a little video of it, of the kids in the circle asking him questions. So not to be afraid to connect through differences, you know, and how we do that is by asking questions. And then last but not least, which isn't surprising for me, it's connecting from the heart. It's actually opening up your heart to connect from the heart. It's allowing yourself as a mediator to be open and vulnerable, and also allowing the participants to be open and vulnerable, and actually understanding, I suppose, and not being afraid to understanding where they're at, and not being afraid to ask heart-based questions, you know, not be afraid to ask feelings from the heart. And look, I know there has to be a lot of trust built up to get to that stage, but I think if you have built the trust, not to be afraid of those questions. So I suppose this is the little finish piece. To trust is to choose to connect. Trust life, trust yourself, and trust others. And I think really as mediators, that's what we do every day. And that's what makes our mediation rooms a place where people can move from conflict. And then sometimes I suppose it would be another session to talk about what we do when trust breaks down. But today it's just about trust and connection. So that is the end of my
wonderful presentation.
Wonderful.
Look, this is what it is all about. Andrea, this is what you bring. And Puja has been wondering, what is that light behind her? That's her aura. That's her aura. That's what she brings.
It's shining into our eyes also. So I can. So
sorry, hold on. I see.
That's fine. That's
it's good. Andrea, it's a good thing.
So the connection is made, and so we are all smiling. And this is the topic which is all about.
Yeah.
The thing is that basically there was a symposium on heart, soul, spirituality, and mediation. So we had discussed these things about authentic self, and there was one session with Louis Ore where we discussed how the mediator is the Wi-Fi router and connecting everyone. So interesting thing that's come from your trust aspect is to connect to a Wi-Fi, you have to trust it to actually log on. So now this is that trust. Okay, this is something I can trust. I can get into this Wi-Fi because I'll be sharing so much data. So I should trust this Wi-Fi. So another ad we've added to that. I'll tell Louis, or please let's add this to that discussion. But I think that this aspect of trusting yourself, which you put in the last slide, this was something really which starts from the whole thing. Trust yourself, and which is where you go on. After that, according to me, once if you connect with the heart, with what happens first, I can't say. According to me, that is the starting point wherever it happens. After that, that cultural differences don't come in the way. It's all, I mean, language doesn't come in the way. Nothing comes in the way. It's another connection altogether. To get to that point when you can connect from there.
Yeah, I think sometimes culture does come into it, because if somebody is living in, so say for example, in Ireland at the moment, we would have a lot of refugees coming in, and they're coming into a different culture. They're coming from various different circumstances, which are, you know, not necessarily nice circumstances to be coming from. They're coming from war or whatever other reason. And so for them to trust you is a big ask. You know, they are really, their trust has been broken down so much, maybe in humanity, maybe in authority, maybe in different things. So I think sometimes, you know, to actually connect to them with what they trust. And sometimes if you've been removed from your place of origin, the only thing you've left to trust maybe is your family and your culture, you know. So I think sometimes that it is important to connect to that culture if that is the place where they can connect. So I don't think I have no, I don't care where you're from or what your background is. We're all the same. You're on this planet the same as everybody else. But I think if that person needs you to connect at that level, well, then that's what we have to do as mediators. We have to understand, we have to ask questions, we have to find out how we can connect. And if that's their base level of safety, well, then we connect there, and then we build and we build and we build.
But that heart soul spirituality connection, I will always say, goes beyond everything else once you get there. But Puja wants to come in. Puja, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And that was a wonderful presentation, Andrea. Thank you so much for that. Well, I have been an actively practicing mediator for over 14 years in the Supreme Court of India, the Delhi High Court Samadhan Center. I am the secretary, joint secretary of Madhyam International Council for Conflict Resolution. So I have got a lot of varied people from all over, and India, you know, is a country of multicultural and multi-religion and staying together. So I always say there is no straitjacket formula for a mediator to follow. It's different strokes for different folks. But one thing which connects everybody is that you have to treat everybody with dignity and respect. The minute you do that, the connection is made. If you welcome the parties with dignity and respect, irrespective of their caste, their social status, whatever they are carrying with them, you have already built a connection. And trust comes later, as per me. The opening statement, therefore, is a very, very wonderful tool in the hands of a mediator to lay the ground rules of how we are going to go step by step. And all the while, keep on repeating that the autonomy, as you said, Andrea, and I go with it. Once the parties understand that the outcome is in their hands, they have the final authority and the power to proceed with the mediation or not. It is voluntary, and confidentiality is the crux of the mediation, of every mediation, whether we are in a joint session or a caucus. That definitely goes a long way. The mediator, by posture, by speech, by use of language, has to slowly cement the connection, where comes a point where the parties start having trust. The building of the trust takes a while, because people who are coming before us are already there, whether they are in a corporate matter, whether they are in matrimonial, more so in matrimonial cases where the trust has been broken. The parties are estranged, and the estranged couple has come to us with differences to the extent of their trust absolutely having been shattered. So I, as a stranger, cannot expect that one fine day they will come to me and trust me. So with over a period of time, I have to show to them with my own actions, with the way I deal with them, that yes, they can trust me. Once that trust is built, then it becomes easy for the parties to open up. That trust building is what takes a little time, maybe a session or two. But once they are secure, and you keep on repeating the mantra of voluntary and confidential over and over again, and they know the autonomy is in their hands, the outcome is in their hands, then they will open up. But trust is one of the most important aspects of every mediation. They say the trust has to be like a child, which is thrown in the air and comes back laughing because knows that my father or my grandparents or whoever has thrown me is going to catch me. I'm not going to fall. So the parties have to feel that secure. Then only they will actually open up to what they want. Actually, I was watching this web series on Netflix. It's called Lucifer. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch. It talks about the positive role of Satan. You know, Satan comes to earth, dons the clothes of a very chic guy, and he's in New York, and he's Satan. And Satan has the power to look into the eyes of the people and say, what interests you? So actually, it's just going beyond the religion aspect, and I don't want to comment on the religious aspect, but what they say is that the hell is going over and over and over and over the same thing. So when the parties come to us, they're going through their own hell over and over. They are repeating in their minds. So all we need to do is, from the position of repetition of the thing in their heart and the mind, to bring them to what actually interests them. So for that, the bridge is the trust which the mediator is able to build with the parties. That is why we find that some of the mediators are actually able to do well, whereas some with the same parties are not able to. So parties come to me, especially India is still in its nascent stages. So we have a lot of core and X matters. So the parties always say, oh, we've already had a set of mediation. So I say, you lost nothing there. So they say, no. I said, then let me also try my bit, and maybe something might just work. And let's talk. And otherwise, you always have, since you've already been part of the mediation process, you know that you can always walk out, and I will not keep you holding. So that works positively, because they realize, like so many times the parties come and they say in the first instance, no, we were sent by the court, we're not interested. So I said, okay, doesn't matter, since as per the rules, I can keep this file for 60 days. Let's try and talk. Maybe I'm able to do something different than what others did. And it does work at times. And I mean, it's all about connecting and then building trust. It cannot be first the trust and then the connecting. First, I need to connect with the person. They have to respect me, and I respect them equally. So that is why the sitting of the mediator's room, the positive way of offering them water, tea, small little gestures also help in building connection. So practical mediation is very different from theoretical. Yes, the emotions are high. Yes, there is, like, the amygdala and the oxytocin. We all know about all that. But when it comes to actual practice, it's how you fare. It's like a cricket match. What you do on the field on that day matters most. So I always feel that once you really respect people and are genuine and true, and they're already in problem. So even if you are like, why can't they understand? And you're feeling like, frustrated, and why should never come into the mind of the mediator. Never. Because this is not my mediation. The parties have come to me for facilitation. So I cannot be losing out. Because if I lose out on my own temper, or time, like I keep looking at the watch and the other person's talking and I show disinterest, the connection will just break. Because they'll feel that they're eating into my time. And also allow them to speak, even if they're repeating, so long as it's not repeating of frivolous things over and over again. But if there is a venting out once or twice in the caucus, hear them out, because it might be just like, especially in matrimonial cases, it might be just that all they want is to be heard. Nobody has given them an opportunity. Nobody has the time to hear them. And when they feel, here is a person who's not being judgmental, who's giving me the respect, who's treating me very respectfully and with dignity, then slowly and slowly, like, the peels of the onion, they come out. So the actual fact will come before the mediator and it'll become easy to negotiate. So that is what I feel. And rest, you've already covered, Andrea, in your presentations, which unfortunately, I'm very bad. I just speak what comes to my mind. I'm totally an extempore person. I never come prepared because I don't know what's going to come before me.
That's the right way to. That's the right approach. That's the way you have to be yourself. Let it flow the way it has to. But only thing, Puja, the only thing that comes out from what you just said is that you are new to my events. Up till you keep saying parties, you are new. When you move to participants, then we'll know you're getting there. We use participants here.
I will never say participants because they are parties. We cannot take it away from them, and we have to give them that respect. Yes, they are parties to a dispute. There is a dispute. We cannot give them a facade. It's like, it's being like a capsule. The bitterness is hidden over a facade of participation. No, they're not participants. We have to accept their parties. They themselves would want to be called and referred to as parties. Yes, we don't call them as accused or respondents and defendants and use those legal terminologies. But first party and second party or third party, the minute you say participant, it becomes a game. When it becomes a game, it becomes frivolous. I'm sorry, but I beg to differ. I respect them as parties. I respect them as parties. And yes, I am new, but I am not new to your webinar.
Whatever I say, she's been waiting to put this across to me. Look, the thing is that you moved from accused and all that to parties. We'll move you here also. The point is that let them feel part of the entire process as being together, because they're already coming from a situation where they've been put as sides on one side or the other. We're all working together. Everyone is participant.
Participants, Vikram, sorry for butting in, and participants can be 10. Maybe in a corporate world, there can be a company secretary, a law person, an audit person, but the final call is taken by the managing director. So the participants can be multiple, but the party is one. Similarly, in a matrimonial case, it's only the husband and wife who are the parties. Participants can be the father-in-law, mother-in-law, sister-in-law, blah, 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 friends. They can all be participants, but the outcome vests with the parties.
We're getting into a direction. We'll have one session on parties or participants, but from the corporate.
I think that has a good argument, though.
No. From the corporate world, she's given the argument against. She's given the argument against herself. She says in the corporate. I'm telling you. No, just one second. But I'm telling you. In the corporate, she said in the corporate world, there will be 10 people representing, but there will be one person. No, the party is the company. Party is the company.
One person will take the call whether I'll settle the matter or not. And Andrea with me.
No, Puja, in a corporate scenario, the party is the company, which definitely is not part of it. In the corporate world, it is more applicable. Everyone else is a participant because the party can't come on its own. The company can't come and sit there. So they are all participants. In the corporate world, it's just actually you're proving my point.
Company is a legal entity.
Exactly. That's the party.
By the chairman, the managing director. So they are the signatories. So final call is taken by them.
But they will never become parties. Always the company will be the party. Always. And
But
the party cannot be there. So now you've proved my point that it will be participants. We'll have a session on this. We'll have a session on this. Participants
ways.
or
I am not. I agree to disagree with you.
always a lot of people. There's a whole line of those people who agree to disagree. But that's okay. I think, but the important part is that it all comes down to, I think, that connection and when it happens, what happens, because there's so much happening there. And like you said, there's a theoretical side of it, there's a practical side of it,
Absolutely.
and the experience of it. Certain words have come up in terms of that experience. Okay, you can maybe put it into words, but a lot of it you can't put into words. Like you said, there's so many people who might have handled the same matter, and it comes to you, you do it differently. It's because of the person you are, what you bring. It is a lot that you bring in as a person. Like Andrea brings an aura with her, so everyone brings something.
Vikram, you have many participants for this webinar, but there are only 2 panelists.
Panelists, they're all participants.
Likewise, the parties and the participants in a mediation.
This one, Puja's she's been waiting for so long to put it across to me. We will have a session. We'll fix a time. Parties or participants.
I'm a litigating lawyer. Don't forget that for 29 years.
No, I'll get you there. I'll get you there. Don't worry. I'll get you there. No problem at all. We'll get there. But I think, yeah, Andrea.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the conversation. I just think, I think as well, sometimes when we go into mediation, you were saying, Vikram, there that, we can come in and, one person might be able to connect and the other person. And I think it's also okay to say that as a mediator, that if you go into a mediation that actually I'm not connecting with them, I'm not connecting here properly. I don't know that I'm the right person for this. And I think not being afraid to actually get somebody, if you don't think you're the right person, to not just say no, to actually say, I don't think I'm the right person for this, but I know somebody who actually would, really might be able to help you here. So if you have a sense that they might connect with somebody else, I mean, I don't know, we have approximately 700 mediators, maybe more now in Ireland, but 700 mediators registered with the MII. So like very small number. So you will know somebody that will connect, if you're not the right person. So I think it's to kind of know that sometimes we're not everybody's cup of tea, and that's actually okay.
But Andrea, we have to follow living room protocol. Alex is here. We have to say hi to her. Yes, Alex, can you hear us?
Hi, Alex.
And she's looking so different. She had a session in the morning, not morning really, my afternoon, and she was totally different. Okay, she's a different person. She walks in as a different person now. What happened, Alex? What happened during this time? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. You'll have to get your mic in order. Yeah.
You're not connected from the audio.
Yes, we can't hear you. You have to connect. You have to choose the right mic or something like that.
No, I think she's not connected with the audio. She's to connect.
Yeah, you have to press that connect to audio.
Correct.
No, she'll get that. No.
Yes, now you have to unmute, Alex.
Yes, say something. Say something, Alex. Alex, can you hear us?
Connected, and again, she's got disconnected. She's still connecting to the audio.
Here it shows it's okay.
She's connecting to the audio.
But I think, Andrea, that part is important, that if you feel that you are not the right person, and that I think comes from the energy that's flowing there. I think you can actually get that feeling, and when you get that feeling, then I think it's the right thing to put that across, because if being an important part of the process, your presence and your connectedness, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, and I think just talk about connectedness and energies and things like that. I think sometimes we have to change our energy to suit where people are at. So sometimes, I mean, I would be quite bubbly, quite thick, but if I'm in a mediation, my energy needs to change. It needs to change to a different type of energy. And I think being able to master your energy is actually very helpful with that connection and with that trust. Because if your energy is too high, well, then they're all the time trying to catch up with your energy, and it's exhausting. So you have to slow your energy back down. Again, if they need an energy, maybe they're looking for somebody to boost their energy, well, maybe then you have to inject energy into the process. So I think another thing we need to understand is how our energy affects the people that we're working with. And look, most of us will know that if we've had a really busy day or really, if there's something difficult going on in our lives, we don't have the same energy for mediation unless we are very skilled in leaving some of it outside the door, So I think we have to be conscious of our own energies as well, and what we bring, and the energies of the people in the room.
Alex, I think, is connected. Alex, you want to say something?
Alex, yeah, I think she's not connected with the audio. Andrea, somewhere we cannot, there has to be an aspect of active listening, because we cannot belittle somebody's coming to you with, for you, it might be just another mediation, but for them, it is their life. So we cannot be frivolous. We have to give respect to our own profession also. As a mediator, I have to be true first to my own self, whether I'm in the right frame of mind, as you rightly said, to acknowledge and accept somebody who is in a difficult situation, and go with a very fresh and a clean slate. I cannot have a predisposed mindset, and merely on seeing people, I cannot be having my biases and prejudice in place by seeing somebody's way of dressing up, somebody's way of talking. So I have to be neutral, and I have to have that, connect built with them by simply giving them the respect that the parties deserve, that they have come to you and they feel that you can help them. So they are before you with a hope in their heart, even if it's a slight little ray of hope. They might not, the room may not be light enough at that point in time, but with that slight ray of hope which they have, that if we have come before this mediator, we might be able to come to some kind of a resolution to this dispute. There might be a settlement. So that thing is there always in the mind of the parties. It's very much at the back of their minds. They may project that they are not here for mediation, or they may be a little skeptical towards the process initially, but they do come with a ray of hope, and we just have to enlarge that ray into a full-fledged room which is full of light.
Yeah.
So
let me get Alex in, because Alex is connected. Alex, what's happened now? Are you connected or not?
No, she's not.
Yeah, she is. You are connected now.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. This is
Good evening, Alex.
You cannot hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you now, Alex.
Yeah, okay, sorry, it's like a difficult section to hear. Yeah, well, I'm not really like here, but yeah, indeed, it's important to be able to adapt to the level of the group. It's like part of the space we are offering.
But I think the mic stays close to your mouth. I think, Alex, much easier. Yeah, much better.
Yeah, I'm just saying that it's important to adapt to the energy of the group. It's really true, and really important, because it can prevent from people to having their own space. I agree with what has been said. Yes, but I will stop here because I haven't heard enough of the previous conversation you had.
Perfect. I think the concept being the same, everyone's saying the same thing. It's just that maybe certain things don't have words is what stops us from saying a lot of things. So that part of it is definitely there. And otherwise, yes, Andrea, please tell us from your end how the heart, soul, spirituality, these three words that are used, where do you see those fitting in, and how? We've already spoken some about it, but anything more than that?
With as regards trust, is it, and connection, heart, soul, and spirituality, is it?
Yeah. What thoughts on all three? Heart we've spoken about. Does the soul fit in anywhere? Connecting to the soul, does that fit in anywhere?
Oh yeah, well, I definitely think that connects. I think when you're connected, especially if it doesn't happen. I've had a few instances where I've connected with somebody in mediation, and I talked about the hair standing up on my arms, because I know I've connected deeply. And I think when you connect like that, in some way, you've touched somebody's soul, in that sense, and maybe you've allowed them, I don't know, it's nearly like an electric current when it happens. It doesn't happen all the time. So I think that is, I would say that's part of your soul, because I think that's part innately of who you are. So I would see that as being the soul, you know, of the essence of who you are.
But Andrea, we're going to living room protocol. We have to get Griselda in. Griselda, hello, how are you? You want to say hi to everyone? Griselda's worried. She thought her session is going, she has to join only at her session. There's no issue of joining early. There's no problem at all. You can participate in the discussion also.
Hi, Griselda. And spirituality, I think, oh,
she's going to, you can unmute yourself, Griselda. You can say hi to us. You want to unmute and say hi? We can't hear you. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, now she is.
Buen día, saludos desde México, Guadalajara, Jalisco.
Buen día.
thank you.
So we'll get you in. I will start the session. Then I'll start my Spanish. You know, I'm so good at Spanish. I'll start my Spanish.
So she's saying she's from Mexico.
Yeah.
Did she say that?
Yeah.
India, New Delhi.
What we did was this time, Puja, that we removed countries from the equation.
good.
We said, let's just be mediators. Maybe next year you'll see even the surnames will go. It'll only be names after that. And after that, next year, it'll be only mediator number 1, number 2, number 3. Yeah, so
or maybe with the kind number of like sessions you have, we all will be knowing each other by names. So there will be no need for introductions.
Yep.
Because you're doing a wonderful job, seriously.
Yeah, no, it is great.
Thank you. So, but Andrea, you were on the spirituality part of it. That was the interesting part.
Yeah, I think that, you know, they're all interconnected. You know, I mean, spirituality is our energy, is our, like, I don't know how you can separate them. I think your heart, your soul, and spirituality is all connected in one. And when we connect with people, we connect with those things at different levels. So is that in the mediation room? Yes, it's always in the mediation room. It is for me anyway. It's always there for me in the mediation room. Because I come from a place of belief. So for me, mediation is a process that is based on, you know, a belief and a value system. And, you know, so it is the essence of who I am, I suppose, to a certain extent. So I think, yes, it does. Trust is very much part of heart, soul, and spirituality, as is connection, as is the mediation room. Like we're vulnerable. You know, people that come to us are vulnerable. Like, so it has to be a space where all those things are open. Do we discuss them? Not necessarily.
No, the shared values part of it that you said. I think the shared values is a very important aspect of the whole thing. But again, now, okay, Puja, I have to move from parties to participants. I'll have to move you from mediation room to bringing people under the tree, because we have to go beyond mediation table, mediation room. We have to look at it from a different perspective. Yes, but Alex says that next time there'll be avatars. Everyone will have an avatar. There'll be we might be in the metaverse, it seems. So Puja, what do you think on spirituality? What is your view on that? Or heart, soul, spirituality, all three?
No, I feel some things are so personal that we cannot trivialize them. Spirituality is my belief in myself and the energy. I cannot force my spirituality onto somebody else. It is one-on-one. Just like for some people, religion is idol worship. For others, it's about a book. For me, religion is humanity, to be good to my fellow humans, to be honest to my own self. For me, that is my religion, and that's what we have been taught. Likewise, spirituality is my soul journey and how true I am to me and my own self. If I'm true to my own self, I will be true to everybody around. So my spirit, I definitely cannot have a soul connection with every mediator, participants, which you like to call. I cannot have a spiritual connection with them because I am here. I cannot forget that this is my role. This is my job. Yes, so long as I am honest with my job, I do not know where the parties are coming from. I only know so much as they want to share with me. I cannot be connecting to them with my soul. This is my limited understanding of my thing, and I'm not asking anybody to accept it or deny it. But I do have a trust building, a connection, but definitely not a soul connection. If I'm meeting, say, over a period of so many years, I would have met more than 2,000 participants. I cannot be having a spiritual connection with 2,000 participants to a mediation, or 5,000 parties to a mediation. I definitely cannot. I'm not even attempting that. My role is defined that I have to go to where I can facilitate communication, where I can help estranged participants and parties come together to a point where they can, hash out their problems. So if I bring spirituality into it, then yes, spiritually, I need to be calm for my own self. Spirituality is something very personal, and I
No,
don't.
Puja, what we're saying is that
I can ask you, come sit, let's do meditation. But might be that I have reached a stage of meditation where what is meditation is that you have to release all thoughts and all negativity from your mind. But the minute you close your eyes, initially, there will be a million thoughts which will rush into your mind from very trivial things, as I have to pick up my laundry. I close my eyes. Oh, I have to do groceries. I forgot these items on my list. And then you have to say, no, 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 no. I have to blank out all this. I'm at the moment trying to connect with the eternal. So I cannot do that. And I would not even attempt to be spiritually connected with the parties.
no, I think what no, Puja, I think what we were I know which very where you were going, but in this case, what you're saying is that it can be a different aspect of your spirituality, bringing the person that you are, and when you maybe you yourself don't realize that, and when you say that you are there and you connect in a different way, or you can maybe you're looking at more from maybe the say the result perspective, whatever is happening. Is it about you? It doesn't have to be, I mean, it's not that the word has to be now about you pushing some kind of spirituality. That definitely doesn't happen. It's that the person that you are is based on a lot of factors, which is where I have been discussing that aspect of this conference will actually be discussing the machines and the human aspect of it. And if machines can be programmed to do certain things, let that happen, because what do you bring in as a human? Do you bring the heart soul spirituality connection? It doesn't have to be a spiritual connection in that sense.
The heart and the soul cannot be snapped. They always come like a package. Your heart and your soul are always connected. That is where the spirituality comes out. And if you're true, it starts showing. It's like with so much of advancement of AI and graphic designing, still a Leonardo da Vinci painting will cost millions and not a printout.
Yeah. No, but I think
we lost Andrea.
No, she'll come back. She was at some other place. She wasn't in her house. She was somewhere else. So maybe some connection happened. So I think this is something that, of course, what happens is that these words, because they obviously don't have specific meanings to everyone, everyone looks at it differently. But I just feel that connection is what the human brings in, and how it works. Maybe we'll still have to have theory will come, whether it'll ever come or not. Alex, any comments on this? And then we'll have to start Griselda's session because we're already 3 minutes late. Sorry, Griselda, 2 minutes. Yes, Alex. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Are you always on the
Can
move?
you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, so quickly, just yes, I think this part, spirituality, is absolutely super important, but for yourself, like it's like your personal ecologies, as you said, it's not about to bring in the people into your beliefs or stuff, but okay, pardon. Sorry, I cannot speak. I have to disconnect. I'm sorry.
Okay, no issue. We got the point. We got the point. So thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
So thank you, Puja.
Thank you, Vikram. And the connection is made. We all three of us are in different shades of green.
Yeah. You'll all agree. You'll come down to this. I'm telling you, it's just a matter of taking you through those things. But what we did not discuss actually was one aspect of what is a certain environment that you are in, which is the court aspect of it, that whether that trust and connection, is there a difference there? Will it be different if it was a different kind of a setting and all? So that's another, we'll maybe have some other time. So because Griselda's session has to start. So thank you very much, Puja. And
Thank
of course,
you, Griselda. I'm sorry, I don't understand the language, but I will hear the translated version.
I'm sure Griselda can also speak in English, but she's a little hesitant, it seems.
No worries.
Okay.